Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today I want to answer a question that I've been asked so many times in the comment section of my video, and whenever people see me, they're usually like, hey, LevelCap, when's the next Airsoft video? Why aren't you posting any more Airsoft videos? And I'm going to try and answer that in the most clear, concise way possible, but I have a feeling I'm going to have to get into quite a bit of detail in this video. Now, to give you the short and simple answer right up front, it's basically that I kind of ruined the game for myself. I took what was a fun hobby with very little expectations of what would come out of a day-to-day operation of going airsofting, and I turned it into a requirement for me on YouTube. I turned it into a job. I put money behind it. I got sponsorships. I went out there with tons of cameras and tons of expectations every time I went playing. And if the experience didn't live up to my expectations, or if I had technical problems, cameras failing, guns failing, all that kind of stuff, I would get very frustrated because a lot of work and time went into creating each video, and there are so many things that could go wrong to basically just make an entire day's worth of work completely worthless. There are some days where I thought I was recording and then the recordings would get corrupted, or a battery wouldn't charge properly, so I'd get out on the field and a camera would die right away and I wouldn't have my helmet cam functioning, or the main gun that I wanted to do a video on would break down during the day. There are so many things that could go wrong with making an airsoft video, whereas if you just went out there to play and have fun and you had a couple backup guns here and there, I don't think you would have as many expectations or as many requirements to have a good day of airsofting. But as I upped the production quality and the production value of going out and playing airsoft, I basically just created a scenario where me going out and just playing some airsoft with friends was no longer the requirement for having a good time, for having a good day. I also had to have all my recordings work out well. I had to get decent footage. So many things had to work out, and if they didn't work out perfectly, then I was going to be upset at the end of the day. And this is completely my fault. I mean, I created so many requirements for me to have an enjoyable experience while airsofting that it was like a 50% or even less chance that I was actually going to go out and get a good day of airsofting in under my belt, that I was going to walk away from the field that day feeling happy. Now, aside from the fact that I did turn this into a job for myself, I also played a crap load of airsoft while doing this, and I enjoyed a lot of it. But at the same time, if you know me from watching my videos and understanding how I critique games and stuff like that, airsoft is a sport that is just all over the place. There's no real rules or regulations. Every field plays differently. Your experience can change completely day to day depending on how many players are on the field, depending on what refs are running the field. And like video games or anything in life, I found a lot of criticisms with the sport in general, and found a lot of frustrations, things that would affect my enjoyment of the game very significantly just based on factors I couldn't control. If a field was too crowded one day, it could play horribly. If there was cheaters playing that day, it would just ruin the entire experience for myself. I absolutely can't stand cheaters, and despite having good refs or not, sometimes it can be nearly impossible to do anything about it. Airsoft is an honor sport, so people basically just have to call their hits and admit when they get shot by BBs, and unfortunately cheating is all too common in airsoft, or players just not really understanding the game that well enough. A lot of new players don't understand when they have to call, or when a BB's actually hitting them versus a ricochet, or they'll just wear such poofy clothing because they're afraid of getting hit or hurt that they won't feel the impacts of the BB significantly enough, or if they don't understand where they got shot from, they won't call it. So there's just so much of that going on in the sport that gets really frustrating once you're trying to refine your gameplay and refine your style of gaming. That you're like, hey, I shot this guy, but he's very new and he's not calling it. So it's just weird. You feel like you're being held back by the lowest common denominator, which is like the new player or the player who's playing dishonestly. Then, of course, there's the time factor of airsoft. To go out and play a game of airsoft is not just on a whim, oh, I think I'll go play some airsoft. You have to have your gear ready, prepared, and checked. There's so many batteries, and for me specifically, with all the camera gears and all the different weapons I had to have as backup, just to make sure I had gear to play that day and that I could get the best value out of my time. There was a huge amount of checklists and stuff to prepare for. On top of that, living in Orange County, a lot of the cities around here don't want airsoft or paintball in their area. They think it brings like bad kind of crowd around or something. I don't know. They think it brings in the riffraff, which is really unfortunate. So the closest field to me is like a good 50 minutes or more away. Usually with traffic, it's going to be a lot longer. And some of the good fields take even longer to get to. So I could spend 3 hours or more a day driving just to get to and from airsoft games. So a lot of driving, a lot of prep work, and a lot of potentiality for failure led to essentially a lot of frustration at the end of the day and a lot of time. And considering that making one airsoft video required one full day, like from dusk till dawn, of playing airsoft and then going home, downloading all that footage, transferring it overnight, and then an entire day of editing together 3 cameras, it was a pretty big requirement just to make one airsoft video. So this was all time on top of doing my normal YouTube content as well. And as anybody who's like a full-time YouTuber or a career YouTuber, you know that the only thing limiting the amount of work you put into your channel is you. And if you don't have any sort of boundaries there, you're going to overwork yourself and overstress yourself and just be working like 80 hours a week because nobody's telling you not to work 80 hours a week. All right, now this next aspect of airsoft that I want to talk about is something that I've been trying to word it carefully because I don't want to sound like a prick, basically. But I love all my fans, everybody that I met on airsoft fields. So many of them have been really cool people, and I've had a lot of good conversations with people, good convos, and made relationships and friendships out of it. But there was a big deterrent to airsoft, which was my recognition. After posting these videos that got millions of views on YouTube, there was a lot of people that would come out to airsoft fields and try and find me. They would figure out what fields I was playing on a lot. They would know what days I went on. They would ask the referees when I would go. So there'd be a lot of people looking for me and trying to talk to me and just basically become my friends. Lots of Facebook friend requests, all that kind of stuff that would just come out of airsoft. And again, there's so many cool people that I met doing this, but it got to a point where it became very hard to manage or very hard for me to relax when going out. It was already hard enough for me to enjoy myself if any of the things went wrong that day with all my equipment and gear and the other factors that could mess up a day of airsofting. And then on top of that, having it to also be sort of like a press event every time I went out, having to just meet and greet so many people each and every time. It was just hard to relax, you know, and in between airsoft rounds is when you kind of want to kick back and relax and chat with your friends, drink some water. And that was the time where there would be like 20 or 30 people that would come up to me and talk to me about stuff. I mean, it wasn't that bad every single time for sure, but sometimes it got really bad. And it even bled over into the gameplay itself, where I would get a lot of people following me around the field, which is not good if you're trying to play stealthily and you got like a little kid wearing a bright blue hoodie or something that's like just following you everywhere you go. I had games where I had like 8 kids that would be right behind me on my 6 no matter what I did all the time, which is really bad for the game. You need to spread out. You need to kind of like move in smaller groups than that. So that got annoying. And then at the same time, I would get people that would just follow me with their cell phones out recording me. Like they would sort of like put out their dead rags and not be a player in the game and just like film me, which was incredibly annoying because I'd be like at a corner and I'd be trying to sneak up on guys, and then there'd be like a cameraman standing outside of the corner. So the entire enemy team would be like, what's that camera guy filming? Oh, it's probably somebody around that corner. So that part of it got really, really obnoxious as well. And in addition to that, once the refs started to recognize who I was and watch my videos and stuff, I had a few of them like that actually threatened to like kick me out of the fields because they would say they watched one of my videos and I overshot a guy at like this one point in the video, and if I did that again, then I'm like off the field permanently. And I hated having that kind of scrutiny. Like nobody else was getting criticized for their gameplay that they recorded, and I felt like I was a pretty honorable player overall. But if they wanted to nitpick through my footage and like say that I was doing something illegal at one point in one video or something like that and threatened me off the field, like it got really annoying and invasive. And unfortunately, airsoft is not some like big money sport with lots of well-trained professionals. It's passionate people, but also a lot of immature and unqualified people that run these things. And when it comes to that specifically, some of the field owners were just kind of these crazy people, and they would come up to me and try and like hash out business deals and get me to like promote like products or events that they were doing, and just like expect me to do all this promotional work for them, even though I was like playing at the field, paying my own money to come to the field. And just like totally barge their way into our conversations, or like invade my private time or my space, trying to set up business deals and negotiations and stuff like that. And it was just like really inappropriate from a professional standpoint, and ultimately it made me not want to go to certain fields, because I was like, oh, that owner's gonna like come up to me again, and he's gonna try and get me to promote his products, or get me to like do all these promotional videos for his field and stuff like that. And it just got to the point where there is like, I had like a list of like, oh, I don't want to play at this field because that guy's there, or this ref, like he's gonna like harass me or something like that. And so there just became all these laundry lists of things that I ultimately just didn't want to deal with anymore. And I really don't want this video to sound like just a whiny, complaining video. There's so many cool things about Airsoft, so many awesome aspects to the sport, and I think I enjoyed it the most when I was first getting into it, and I was playing more casually, and I didn't have all my cameras and stuff with me, so I wasn't really worried about getting the best footage and all that stuff, and I was able to just kind of relax and enjoy myself, and people didn't know who I was, and I could just play with friends. And at that point, Airsoft was fun, and I didn't have to commit to this many games a month and all that kind of stuff. When I started turning it into a job, and when I started to get lots of YouTube recognition for it, it became unfun for me. And just having all that kind of pressure associated with it, and all those work responsibilities associated with it, it became more of a job than it was fun, you know. And with video gaming is still fun to me. It is a job, it is YouTube, but I still really enjoy it and have a lot of fun. And I can still have my anonymity when I play. If I really want, I can change my player name in video games, but in Airsoft, I'm me, and everybody will recognize me no matter what I do. So there just wasn't a whole lot I could really do once I got to a certain point, and I really think I kind of ruined the sport for myself. So ultimately, to try and summarize the reasons why I've stopped playing Airsoft and stopped making YouTube videos, it was a huge time commitment. It was a huge amount of work. There were so many variables that could ruin a day for me once I got all my technology and equipment set up and had expectations video wise, to the point where I became ultimately frustrated. And then the mass recognition and the responsibilities that came with that just made it such a big ordeal to go airsofting that I didn't want to do it anymore. Will I go airsofting again in the future? I might lay low for a while and then really get the hankering to do it. I still have some of my favorite airsoft guns, and I kept a lot of my favorite airsoft gear. So, I mean, I got all the stuff to go out and play, and even record if I really want to, but at the moment, I don't have any definite plans to start up airsoft videos on my channel again. And for those of you who really enjoyed my airsoft videos over the years, I thank you for that. I really enjoyed editing a lot of them. They're just so cool. Like at the end, it was a lot of fun to watch the footage back and see what came out. If you absolutely need to watch some cool YouTube airsoft videos, there's plenty other good YouTube airsofters out there. Jet the Desert Fox is still making airsoft content regularly, and he has some very, very cool stuff. So anyway, I know this answer is probably going to disappoint a lot of people out there, and that's the last thing I want to do, but I also want to be honest with you guys about what's going on and what to expect with my content in the future. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing out.